Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to The Walk. Today is Monday, May 26th, and we have wrapped up that whole Ezekiel study. We spent 11 months doing a deep dive of Ezekiel. So in the last few weeks, I have spent a lot of time praying about what is next. And I believe I've told you that I was leaning towards Romans or Hebrews, but I wasn't sure. I was also praying about whether or not we should go through topics rather than through a book of the Bible. And the direction was very clear. I had a lot of confirmation and conversations with other people and things like that. We're going to do Hebrews. So today we're just going to talk about the introduction of the Hebrews. We're going to kind of get the lay of the land, get some of the background of Hebrews. It's a very interesting background. One of the most interesting things I found as I did the background is that the author is unknown. Nobody knows who wrote Hebrews. And scholars believe that the name of the author of Hebrews was lost by 100 AD, which means everyone that it wasn't very long after the resurrection and the ascension and Paul doing his ministry, that the authorship of this person became unknown. And it made me think of Timothy. You know, Timothy was very young, and Paul encouraged him a lot because he was so young, and he was afraid that, you know, he didn't want people to push him to the side and not listen to his message because of his age. So it makes me wonder, was Timothy still alive when the authorship of this amazing book became unknown? How did that happen? How did it become unknown? And as I began to do research, I kind of came to the conclusion, I came to the conclusion that it's very possible that God himself put who the author of this book under a veil on purpose, because the content of the book is so much more important than the authorship. And the authorship doesn't change that theology. There is so much theology in the book of Hebrews. Now, one of the things that they have found is that the writing style, when you look at it in the Greek, it is very articulate. This person that wrote this had to have been highly, highly educated. The author also quotes the Septuagint. Now, if you're not familiar with that, they took the Hebrew of the first 5 books and they translated it into the Greek very, very early on when the followers of God became fluent in Greek. So that's what the Septuagint is. It's one of the texts that is often consulted when they translate a Bible into any other language. It could have been writing from, there could have been some writing from Romans 13:24, and it says, "Those who come from Italy send you greetings." So it's possible that in verse 13, it's referring to the author of Hebrews and that he was well known to the people that received the book. It could have come from Italy. It's very possible it was written in Rome just because of what it says in 13:24. The writer also identifies himself as among the second generation of Christians in chapter 2, verse 3. So this is not that first group of Christians, but it's that very next group of Christians. There are some theories about who the author could be. Some thought Paul, some thought Barnabas, some thought Apollos, but the bottom line is nobody knows for sure. And once again, I suspect that it was a divine intervention that this authorship has been lost. The oldest copy of the book of Hebrews is entitled To the Hebrews. So we have to remember, this is not a book from Hebrews. This is a book written for the Hebrews. It's given to the Hebrews. We have to understand the times these Christians were living in. They were in heavy persecution from both the government and the people that remained Jewish. Made it very difficult to live as a Christian. intense pressure to turn back to Judaism rather than Christianity. So the more uncomfortable they could become, the Judaism people could get them about their Christianity, the better, because they wanted them to convert back to Judaism because they were uncomfortable with Christianity. So with that all being said, the purpose of this book was to encourage these Jewish Christians who had it so rough to remain true to the faith and think about what that faith really is, what it really means, and how it functions in our relationship with God. Chapter 11 is the famous faith chapter. It's all about faith. It gives us an incredible definition of faith. We're going to go deep into that. And it's about recognizing that the promise is still there. The promise is true, even if we don't see that promise come to fruition. Tomorrow, we're going to start Hebrews. Have a wonderful day. God bless, and keep walking the walk.